Majority Report with Sam Seder. It's time to look in the mirror, America. Do you like what you see?
I keep referring to Obama as the magic Negro.
Do you like what you see now?
Well, suck on this.
It's just a mirror, America.
Shared sacrifice by everybody.
What could it do to you except reflect your image?
I did nothing wrong at the Minneapolis airport.
The Majority Report.
Far more credible to me than PBS and Frontline.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
And I get the feeling you've been cheated.
It is Tuesday, November 17th. My name is Michael Brooks, and this is the four-time award-winning Majority Report. We're broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On today's program, Alistair Crook. He's a former British intelligence operative, former advisor to the European Union on the Middle East and foreign policy. He's the head of the Conflicts Forum, which facilitates dialogue between Islamist movements and Western states. And he's going to explain to us how we can best understand ISIS, and that's through understanding Saudi Arabia. Plus, Louis Gohmert, he said something that's funny. You need a little levity. A elite British university disinvites a speaker who went to Syria to fight with the Kurds. Total insanity. We'll also talk about winning, whether President Obama wants us to be winning or whatever other things these Republicans have cooked up about what he said at the G20 summit in Turkey. I'm sure they would never misinterpret anything that President Obama said, and I'm sure that they would always give a fair and accurate representation of his opinions to the world. Might have to touch on Sam Harris. I apologize, but I think it's important. And a whole lot more on today's show. You can start to take me down, new Matt. And we have a minute here. So how are you guys doing? How you doing, new Matt?
It is a beautiful day out today. I'm ready to go.
Is it? Oh, I've never. I actually noticed that today. You came in very you're always pretty positive, but you had some sort of crisp fall energy to you today. You seem you're ready to go.
Yeah. Well, if you remember, on Friday we had the big Donald Trump thing, and then yesterday we had the debate and the terror attack. So busy days.
Very busy.
So not as much to get to today, thankfully.
Oh.
We can just focus on what we need to get to.
All right, sounds good. Miss Kelly, Miss Classic Kelly,
I'm
at
feeling
the mic.
chipper and in a great mood as well.
Terrific. So, I am as well, and I want to add to the positive energy by talking about today's sponsor. And that is Harry's.com. And Harry's is the official partner of Movember, of the Movember Foundation, and will be donating money and helping raise awareness for men's health. And this month. Do you guys, I mean, now we know about Movember because Sam's been talking about it, Harry's has been talking about it. So basically, people have been asking me, what am I going to do for Movember this year? I go in and out. Sometimes I rock a full beard. I'm back to being clean shaven. But I know other people who are taking it really seriously. They got mustaches going on. They're doing a lot of things for Movember. The thing is, you can do whatever you want. And even if you're doing a mustache, you're still going to need a great shave. So Harry's, that's why Harry's is the official partner of Movember. And look, I love Harry's. These razors are the best. First of all, they're cheap. They're delivered to your door. Every single other razor you can imagine, they're so overpriced. You got to go into CVS or Dwayne Reed or something. They treat you like a shoplifter. They got to go there and unlock this incredible, it's what am I doing? Am I in Mission Impossible? I just want a friggin' razor. Okay. And then you pay $30 for the Quattro, Watro, whatever the hell nonsense, overly complicated 50 blade Michigas. That thing is still rusted out and done in a couple of days, okay? Or else you can get these totally cheap, totally like they're just not going to work. They're just going to hack your face up. Harry's is cheap. And another thing is those razors, they last for a while. You keep them clean, you take care of them, they'll keep you in good stead for a while. So they're cheaper and last longer. It's a no-brainer. It's the only thing I shave with. It's given me the best shave that I've ever had, incidentally. And basically the way Harry started, it started with two guys who were passionate about creating a better shaving experience by delivering amazing shave at an affordable price to your door. And getting started couldn't be easier. And what you can do for this Movember month is you can get started with this amazing deal. With my code, Majority Report, you can get it for just $10, okay? That's unbelievable. The guys at Harry's bought a factory in Germany, which we've talked about before, that has been crafting some of the world's highest quality blades for almost a century. Matt, do you want to buy a factory in Germany? Is that one of your life goals?
I don't know if I'll ever have the capital enough to do it, but if I get the chance, definitely.
Factory in Germany, right? Harry's sells its product at a factory direct prices, so you only cost a fraction of the price of the big brands. Over 1 million guys have made the switch to Harry's. Website is streamlined and easy to use. It takes 30 seconds to place an order. And the set, this is what you get. You get a razor handle, 3 blade cartridges, and your choice of shaving cream or foaming shave gel delivered to your door. Shipping is free. Go to harrys.com now. And a special offer for fans of the Majority Report, Harry's will give you 50 off your first order with the code Majority Report. That's harrys.com. Enter code Majority Report and get those $5 off. It's Movember. It's time to support research into men's health, and it's time to get an incredible shaving experience today with Harry's. We'll be right back with Alistair Crook.
Demon can't kill me. Can't kill me again. If you never kill me, you're brave. Yes, I. And we say, Jah over evil, life over death. Demon can't kill me again. We say, good over evil, life over death. Satan can't kill me, Here comes the hot stepper. Fire burning hotter than paper. That song you written proper than later. Protected from the crown of my head, straight down to the very soul of the crepe, Me have a chat for them send gunshot poison care accident. Long time them a try lock off my oxygen, but Jah in control, can't take me soul. Jah over evil, life over death. Demon can't kill me again. Me say, good over evil, life over death. Demon can't kill me again. Them put poison in a liquor, try curse me. A good thing, me no drink, me no thirsty. From the day my mother birthed me, still I see I purge me, nobody can hurt me. Them disguise Jezebel in a the biggest way. Send her come fi give me the biggest A. Chronic left her in dismay. A long time them a try up until this day. Me say good over evil, life over death. Satan can't kill me again. Me say Jah over evil, life over death. Me say them can't kill me again. Can't kill me again. If you never kill me, I'm ready. Whoa. Alright, them did want move me for your part, me bet me dead. But unfortunately them never know say Jah want me set the trend. Fi come step on snake and 40 leg. Good over evil, life over death. Demon can't kill me again. And me say, yeah. Jah over evil, life over death. Demon can't kill me again. And me say, good over evil, life over death. Demon can't kill me. Yeah, come on, copy and base. Long time. Yes, I. Here comes the hot stepper. Fire burning hotter than paper. Here comes the hot stepper. That song you written proper than late.
I could sleep, I could sleep, I could sleep, I could sleep. When I lived alone, is there a ghost in my house? I could sleep, I could sleep, I could sleep, I could sleep. When I lived alone, is there a ghost in my house? When I lived alone, is there a ghost in my house? My house.
Sorry about that, everybody. I'm not sure what's going on. Everything had been booked and good to go, but apparently, not really. So I'm going to check my email and see if I get to if I hear from Alistair's assistant, and if so, I'll try to get him back on the phone. But if not, we'll just move forward with everything else. So let me get to a story, and I want to start with what do we have. Let's really briefly let's go back to the debate that took place on Saturday with Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders and Martin O'Malley. This is one more important exchange that took place in that debate. This is basically they're talking about healthcare. Bernie Sanders is, of course, a proponent of single payer, Medicare for all, eliminating all of the nonsense. You know, we have a healthcare system that, as many people know, we spend more per capita than any other major industrialized country on healthcare, and yet we deliver the worst results consistently. And the reality is that in this case, to have a marketplace of insurance companies and HMOs and barriers to delivery that don't really perform any function other than sucking money out as middlemen has led to disastrous results. So the economic, the humanitarian, the obvious answer is to streamline the process, make Medicare available for everyone. There's a lot of different subtleties and ways, I'm sure, of how you implement it, but fundamentally we need universal national health care, and we need to catch up with the rest of the industrialized world. That's what Bernie Sanders is saying. While acknowledging that Obamacare has delivered some improvements, Hillary Clinton is essentially running on Obamacare. Watch how she frames this exchange with Bernie Sanders. Let's take a look.
Secretary Clinton, back in 1994, you said that momentum for a single-payer system would sweep the country. That sounds Sanders-esque, but you don't feel that way anymore. Why not?
The revolution never came. I waited, and I got the scars to show for it. We now have this great accomplishment known as the Affordable Care Act, and I don't think we should have to be defending it among Democrats. We ought to be working to improve it and prevent Republicans from both undermining it and even repealing it. I've looked at the legislation that Senator Sanders has proposed, and basically he does eliminate the Affordable Care Act, eliminates private insurance, eliminates Medicare, eliminates Medicaid, TRICARE, Children's Health Insurance Program, puts it all together in a big program which he then hands over to the states to administer. And I have to tell you, I would not want, if I lived in Iowa, Terry Branstad administering my health care. As Democrats, we ought to proudly support the Affordable Care Act, improve it, and make it the model that we know it can be.
Well, let me just say something.
30 seconds.
We don't eliminate Medicare. We expand Medicare to all people. And we will not, under this proposal, have a situation that we have right now with the Affordable Care Act. We have states like South Carolina and many other Republican states that because of their right-wing political ideology are denying millions of people the expansion of Medicaid that we passed in the Affordable Care Act. Ultimately, we have got to say as a nation, Secretary Clinton, is health care a right of all people or is it not? I believe it is.
May I jump in?
So Bernie Sanders is exactly right that fundamentally this is a right, along with housing, along with many other things that you cannot reasonably say people have a legitimate shot at life with, frankly. That's the point, fundamentally, of these programs. But the argument she's making is incredibly disingenuous. She's saying basically like, oh, well, you're getting rid of all of these programs like child health care and this and that and Medicare even. When he's saying actually precisely the opposite. He's saying, no, we need to stop having a piecemeal system that works for some people, doesn't work for others, spends resources inefficiently, has misaligned priorities, and has failed consistently to deliver for many Americans, including ones that do have health insurance. That's what he's saying. So instead of acknowledging the reality, he's saying, look, make it all one system that works. And then, of course, there's going to be different aspects of state discretion. She then goes and loops and says, well, the governor of Iowa, who is a Republican, very, very right-wing Republican, I don't want Terry Branstad administering my health care. This is sort of the parallel track to the cheap line about paying for Donald Trump's kids' college tuition. It's the same thing. It's very calculated. It's going to get an applause at a Democratic audience in Iowa, and it's going to completely obfuscate the point, which is that as long as we're playing this game with insurance companies, with HMOs, with parasitic middlemen, there is going to be a lower quality of delivery for most people. We're going to continue to have worse outcomes, and we're going to continue to have misaligned priorities. The only way to fundamentally solve this problem is to do what Bernie Sanders is doing. And I don't know what revolution she expected to happen in the early 90s either. I mean, look, Hillary Clinton has done some good work on healthcare. And if Clinton had passed his healthcare bill, America would be in better shape. She was a major part of designing that. But that wasn't a universal national single-payer proposal either. It was probably a bit to the left of Obamacare, but it was not a single-payer proposal. So, and in fact, it was similar in the sense that it was a very convoluted hybrid proposal, which is difficult to sell to the American people and is easily demagogued. Bernie Sanders is just doing the simple, straightforward proposal. Make it a single-payer system. Give everybody easy, direct access to health care. And any legitimate progressive Democrat should support that unreservedly. It's absolutely obvious. I am really sorry about this. I have no idea. Maybe Alistair Crook is involved with some secret negotiations right now that is making him unavailable. What I'll do is maybe get to one more story, and then I'll give him one more shot. But that is the number. So I'm not hearing back from his assistant right now. So I really do apologize about that. And if I don't get him soon, we'll just go into the fun half a little bit more quickly, and we'll take. Is anybody named Alistair that listens to the show? Maybe call in. We could at least get something. That's really fundamentally why I booked him. I'm a little bit of an Anglophile, man.
I felt like when I saw his name, I felt like it was going to be good. Alistair. I was like, this is going to be a real contribution to the show. I have no idea who he is, what he does. This sounds great.
I know it's getting even more. It's more sad when you put it that way. One time I remember, the only other time anything like this happened, I remember I was having Mark Ames on once. Mark Ames is a great guest. I've had him on a bunch of times. He writes at Pando. Does amazing coverage of corporations, civil liberties, Silicon Valley. And it was a similar type of thing where I called and he just wasn't there. And he didn't respond to any emails. And then 15, 20 minutes into the show, I see this call on Google Hangout. And I go to the break and I pick up, and Ames is just like, dude, sorry, man. And then we went right to it. I don't even remember what the issue was, but that was nice. I doubt that even if I do get Alistair on the phone, which I think at this point is very unlikely, I doubt that Alistair Crook is going to say, dude. So let me actually try to do this interview that, I obviously it's not going to be as remotely as valuable, unfortunately, not having him on the phone. But let me sort of run down what his arguments are. And we've talked about this on the show before. there's a couple of different threads that Alistair Crook has worked on for at least a decade. I think he left government service, I think in 2004 or 2003. He did work in Northern Ireland and he did work in Israel-Palestine, negotiating ceasefires, negotiating peace agreements. And he sort of has a twofold argument that you're seeing actually play out right now, almost like he called it pretty uncannily. So his argument is that, look, there is this Islamic revival, this Islamist political revival. And there's two tracks to it. One track is the Saudi track. And it is a Salafist Wahhabi track. And this is why he says, look, you cannot understand ISIS without understanding Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is where Wahhabism arose and came to power. The power base of Saudi Arabia is an alignment of the House of Saud, the Saudi royal family, and Wahhabist religious clerics and religious establishment. Now, Wahhabism is one of the most fundamentalist, fanatical, conservative, and rigid versions of Islam imaginable. And like many versions that are extreme in any religion, it's pretty modern. This is a couple hundred years old. And it was a revivalist impulse to bring purity back to Islam, quote unquote purity back to Islam. So Saudi Arabia has had this uneasy arrangement between a very powerful and very shrewd Saudi royal family that has enjoyed obviously contradictory and convoluted but positive relations with the United States and the West, built on an alliance around oil, which, you know, many people can read about the account of Roosevelt visiting the Gulf on his ship, and the king at the time, the king of Saudi Arabia, coming and visiting Roosevelt with his sort of entire royal court with him, and them building and signing an agreement concerning oil during World War II. It's a fascinating history. Fast forward to the 80s. These groups that were funded by Saudi Arabia and filtered through Pakistan were obviously a major part of the Mujahideen, which was fighting a war against Soviet occupation of Afghanistan. And incidentally, this is a very legitimate activity for the Afghans. Let's not forget that. Regardless of the fallout of it, the Soviet Union was a brutal occupying force, just like we were a brutal occupying force in Vietnam. We saw a similar opportunity to do what the Soviets and what Vietnam had done to us to do to the Soviets. So we supported the Mujahideen, and the Saudis and the Pakistanis tended to support the most fanatical elements of the Mujahideen. Again, this is very out of keeping with traditional Afghan Islam, which is quite tolerant, relaxed, not this sort of Wahhabi thing. So on one hand, you have this very limited, very literalist Wahhabism, which for a long time the United States did not see as any problem. They saw it as, look, essentially, these guys are fighting communists. The Saudis give us oil. So what's the problem with conservative religious folk fighting our enemies and cutting oil deals with us? So that's one track. And even through all of the lessons that we've learned from Al-Qaeda and September 11th and the rise of ISIS, because all of these groups, even though Al-Qaeda and ISIS object to Saudi Arabia, this is where their ideology comes from. They're Wahhabists, they're Salafi, and this narrow Sunni literalism. That's the ideological base. And they're just following the next logical steps. In other words, if you read the tweets even of top Saudi clerics, you're not going to see that much daylight between them and ISIS. And we know, and people have pointed out, that, of course, there's plenty of beheadings in Saudi Arabia and all the rest. Now, obviously, Saudi Arabia is not the same as ISIS, but ISIS is following and continuing and fulfilling a logic. So what Crook says is, first of all, in order to understand ISIS, you need to understand Saudi Arabia, because that's where the ideology comes from. Then step two is that we, in this Sunni part of this Islamist revival in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, we supported the Wahhabi section of it. Now, there's another contrasting Islamist revival, and that came from Iran and came from Hezbollah and influenced Hamas heavily in the Gaza Strip. And even though Hamas is a Sunni group, it's very influenced by the Shia Hezbollah in Iran. And Crook, who has definitely been accused of being very sympathetic to Iran and sympathetic to Hezbollah, I'm not sure I buy that entirely. I think that he's someone who doesn't. I think he's an operator and a diplomat and an intellectual and an intelligence person, and that worldview doesn't lend itself to any type of sort of easy moralizing, and I would include myself in that. I think I do a fair amount of easy moralizing. But his point is that Islamic revival from the Shia tradition was much more intellectually rich. So if you studied any aspect of the Iranian Revolution, or even as Iran operates now, and anybody who has any passing understanding of Iran, you know that there are moderates like Rouhani, there are liberal reformers like Khatami, there are hard-line far-right people like Ahmadinejad, and you know that Khamenei is to the right, the Ayatollah, the current Ayatollah, is to the right, but he's playing all of these sides together. If you go into the literature of the Iranian Revolution and the Iranian government, there are major intellectual conflicts in terms of how you interpret Sharia, how you govern, what is Islamic governance. In fact, even as the Iranian Revolution was so hardline and so brutal and killed so many people and treats the Baha'is abysmally and has terrible record on women's rights and human rights, there's no doubt about all those things. I'm in no way minimizing that. But the very concept of an Islamic republic such as Iran is an entirely new invention and intellectual innovation in the concept in the Islamic tradition. So his argument is that we opposed and freaked out about Iran and Hezbollah because they weren't anti-communist in the same way as the Sunni Salafists and Wahhabis. They were anti-communist. They wanted to be neither East nor West. That was the slogan of the Iranian Revolution, a full independent course, which is somewhat reminiscent of the non-aligned movement, which was the countries in the developing world in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and it still exists today, but places like India and Indonesia and even Cuba actually participated. And the notion was that we don't want to be a vassal of either of these blocs. We want of either the Soviet Union or the United States. Iran aggressively articulated that. They said we want to be neither East nor West. And we want to think and govern Islamically, which I know from many people in this audience and many people in the West, what does that mean? That just means like, well, violate people's human rights and have a totalitarian religious order. And there's absolute truth to that. But it also meant in Iran, it also meant recalibrating the relationship between individual and community. It also meant a new emphasis on social justice and delivery of health care and other essential services, which the Iranian government, by its own measures, has not lived up to. Their Gini coefficient is horrible, and inequality and crony capitalism are major problems there. But ideologically, they were talking about a lot more than just a conservative, doctrinal, limited version of Islam. They were talking about having open debate. There were female fighting squads. There were many roles for women in parliament. It's a much more contested and complicated tradition. And even though they've certainly, in all of these iterations, engaged in violence and engaged in atrocities, the goals are much more recognizable in the real world. So as an example, and this is really important, when you talk about a group like Hamas, have they engaged in obscene human rights violations and targeted civilians and not recently, but used to engage heavily in suicide bombing? Absolutely. And those are all crimes against humanity and wrong categorically. But the goals that their political objectives have overlap with real world things like occupation, like political goals. Right or wrong, they're not trying to restore a distorted 7th century fantasy of the world. That would be obscenely cruel, like you're seeing with ISIS. So you can condemn both of those groups, and you should, I do, but they're fundamentally different. And Hezbollah is different, and Iran is different. And you have a situation now where Crook was writing this stuff years ago, and in the context of Syria, on one hand, Iran is backing, along with Russia, Assad's government, which still has an incredibly high body count and is totally obscene in its human rights abuses. But at the same time, Hezbollah is protecting Christians in the context of this conflict. Iran is condemning the terror attacks in Paris as a crime against humanity. Because, again, the goals and the versions of these Islamist revivals are different. And Crook's argument is that because we were so obsessed with preserving the traditional power dynamics in the Middle East region and not taking accountability for our own record in Iran, which is obscene, we missed an opportunity for the one side of that ledger that we could potentially have a constructive engagement with, that has a different intellectual worldview, that has some legitimate claims and arguments. We reacted against that, and then we dumped a whole bunch of money into what really is a one-dimensional, fundamentalist, metaphysical movement that is reaching its fullest logical conclusion in ISIS, which clearly is a humanitarian threat to the region, and now obviously is operationally a humanitarian threat to the West. So functionally, with us fighting alongside Iran informally against ISIS, us recalibrating our relationship to Russia and Syria, because what Russia's doing in Syria, again, it's very brutal, but they're also making a statement about NATO's role in the Middle East and their role in the Middle East and these shifting power dynamics. A lot of things that he had predicted and has been articulating are coming to the fore now. So in order to really understand this, and again, we're not supporting or condoning or any of that, but we're drawing important distinctions, which is the way these situations get figured out, not by one-dimensional moralizing or by one-dimensional justifying. You know, on the other hand, ISIS has functionally, could ISIS be what it is if we didn't invade Iraq? Very, 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 very unlikely. But to anybody who comes out and says, you know, ISIS is really about resisting the West because the West is imperialist and colonialist, it's bull. It's nonsense. It has nothing to do with it. ISIS is a imperialist, fascistic, cruel, serially human rights violating, obscene religious fanatic group. That's what it is. If we recalibrated all of our policies tomorrow, it would make no difference for them. But it might make a big difference for Hezbollah, and it might make a big difference for Hamas, and it certainly would make a big difference for the overall context in the region. So the answer is obviously some type of diplomatic process. The answer is some type of soothing of this Iranian-Saudi proxy war, which is the sort of underlying temperature heightener of the region. And it's in making these distinctions ourselves as observers so we don't fall into one-dimensional traps and we can really sort of gain a greater understanding of these issues. So, you know what? Minus a British accent, I kind of nailed that. I'm just playing. I hope that was valuable. I'm really sorry that we couldn't get Alistair Crook on the phone. I have no idea what happened. I still actually didn't hear back from him. So hopefully everything's okay on his end. We're going to go to the fun half of the program. And you should support this show because, even with a guest not showing up, you still got some value. You still learned a little Iran, a little Saudi, a little Salafi, a little Hezbollah. I got you. That's how this show exists. That's how this show is possible. You can support us for less than a cup of coffee a day. Go to Majority Report, majority.fm/become a member. If you use Amazon, give us a kickback. Use our link on our website or go to Majority Report. What is it? I think it's Majority Report Kickback. Is that what it is? Majority Report/kickback?
I'm not sure, but if you go on to majority.fm and /report, you should see the Amazon link there.
Yes. The Amazon link is there. Give us a review on iTunes. That helps us move up in the rankings. And we're going to be we're testing out different days to send email blasts. But on the next email blast, what we're going to ask for is, even if you're a member of this show, subscribe to us on iTunes anyways, because that helps move us up the rankings and we get in front of more eyeballs that way. There's a lot of you that are members. All of you should be members, but you get the feed outside of iTunes. But if you subscribe to iTunes too, it doesn't affect the delivery of the show to you, the unedited members show in any way, but it helps move us up the rankings, which exposes us to more people. Also, writing a review helps a lot as well. Of course, you should write a review emphasizing me. Those are the best reviews to write. And some shout outs for new Matt. I was going to say Classic Kelly too, but she just shook her head at me. So whatever.
Yeah, I'll take your shout outs.
Okay. Classic Kelly will take shout outs as well. There's something really weird about reacting to facial expressions that other people can't see. Okay. What else can you do? Fair trade. JustCoffee.coop. Get the Majority Report blend. Help workers. Help the environment. Help us. I was walking by a Starbucks the other day, and this woman was handing out leaflets about Starbucks, and I was like, you know what? I don't even need to read this. I got it. I buy it. I'm sure Starbucks is terrible. I have no doubt. So support us. Become a member. We'll see you on the flip side. Oh, and hopefully there's not a problem with the phones. You can join us at 646-257-3920, 646-257-3920. 646-257-3920. See you on the flip side. 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 On the flip side, we shall see you. The flip side's happening now. All right. Welcome back. I'm Michael Brooks. We're on the fun half of the Majority Report. Having a little bit of trouble getting onto the phones. I'm not sure what's going on. The Fire RTC is great for the international calls, but I'm not getting through onto our calling system. And Sam did something with I don't even know. Whatever. All right, I got to read some IMs. I'm sorry. I'm totally kind of flummoxed by this. I don't know why. Why does everything need to be messed with all the time? It's unbelievable. What the? What? What is it?
I'm just gonna read a comment about you.
Sure. And then say what you do.
Ow. Okay. Here's a comment about Michael. Whilst having a difficult technical aspect of the show, Michael is highly intelligent and a bon vivant.
Oh, thank you.
Via David Von Kettering in the YouTube chat channel, which I monitor the YouTube.
Why do you do that?
Because
that's such a bad idea.
No, it's not that I'm monitoring the chat. They're all going to start talking about it now on the chat, I'm sure. I try to, since we've had some recent tech problems, I try to make sure that it's syncing up properly. Not that I could probably fix it while we were on air, but just so that I know, and so that we can make everything smoother in the future. And I like you said, I should not be reading the comments.
But just to be clear,
day.
Kelly is in charge of our videos, so she does a lot.
That is what I do.
Kelly cuts and edits our videos. She is also a person who I think, because of her behavior in the office, is making it clear that we need an HR department, which is also helpful. So, and I think, and you.
No, people were asking what I do, and I never intended to be on air, but I think it's really fun to. I like reading the comments because I like that there's an audience that's engaged. That's exciting part of this job. But yeah, I cut and edit the video.
It's very BuzzFeed of you.
What?
I like engaging with the audience. This is a very exciting part of the job. I like hearing what people say.
It's
awesome. No, I know it's cool.
No,
it is
and
great.
how is that BuzzFeed? I worked at BuzzFeed.
I just think of them being really positive. I gotta take some calls because we literally have I'm sure that I probably said something there that bothered somebody. But we'll get back to. But Kelly does a lot, everybody, and Matt does a lot.
Yeah,
I'm thrilled with these additions.
On Kelly's side, I mean, she's a strategic internet person as far as getting people to look at it, and that's something that I'm glad she brings to the table.
This show needs. That's right. See all the positivity here when I'm in charge.
Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
You are one of my favorite people that works for this show.
All right, everybody, go back to your other comments about Kelly. That's your problem. Is I do my best. I extend so many olive branches, and you smack
Michael,
them out of my hands.
Stop it! No, you know that.
No, I know it's all love. I got to take this call. We have 8 people on the line. You're calling from a 610 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from? Hello? Hello. All right. I'll get to the next one. You're calling from a 269 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from? Hello? You're on the air. Oh, that's Kelly. Hello? Are you just trying to play Kelly back to herself?
The ghost of Kelly's past.
All right. All right, everybody. There's a lot of calls and a lot of people not seeming to be able to work their phones. Are you that 1 in a million that is actually going to be here when we say hello? No? Hello? Dude, hello? Hello? Hello?
You're on the air. Hello?
Hello? Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Ryan called from Massachusetts.
You're Ryan, you're calling from Massachusetts?
Yes.
Okay, what did you have in mind, man?
Yeah, I'm against gun ban.
You're against what?
Gun ban.
I can't hear you too well, man. You're against what?
Yeah, like a ban on assault weapons.
You're against a ban on assault weapons.
Yes.
Okay, so are you like a libertarian? Are you calling into debate, or you just would like the world to know that you're against the ban on assault weapons at 12:52 Eastern Time?
And
Yes.
to debate it.
Is this Alistair Crook? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead. Just checking. So you would like to debate it? Can you? I would love to debate. Can you call right back? Because I honestly feel like I can. I don't know if you can. You speak closer to your phone because I can barely hear you.
Yeah, I do the same connection. So.
Sorry.
It'll be the same connection. So
Okay, that actually sounds better. That actually sounds better. Okay, so why don't you say your point real quick about guns, and we will have a debate.
All right. Well, I believe in gun control regulations. I don't think a ban would be effective.
Why?
Because I mean, we should make whole point of a ban would be that it would just give anyone a gun, but that's when we could just put regulations. You know what I mean?
I actually don't know what you mean. No, I have no idea what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, like if we make them, if we make certain people qualified to have an assault weapon, I mean, I don't see a reason why they shouldn't be able to have an assault weapon.
So, okay, so I get what you're saying. I think you're not like a total NRA person, because I think what you're saying is that there should be more background checks and screening. What I find, okay, so that's cool. So I agree with you. I mean, look, I don't know. I've shot a AK-47 at a firing range once. I guess it was pretty fun. But don't you think in some ways it's a little bit like, if you want to own an assault weapon, don't you think that that's a pretty good screen that you probably shouldn't have one?
Not really. I mean, because you could use it for defense purposes. I mean,
what situation are you? What situation in real? Okay. Look, I don't want to make it. That was a mistake to make it personal about people who want it. But the reality is that these guns are extraordinarily dangerous. We live in an era where you saw what happened in Paris. If you're a terrorist organization, one of the easiest things you could do is an attack like that involves high-powered assault weapons, right? You know that these weapons move all over American cities. There's very little oversight, and they lead to a tremendous amount of death and destruction. And the sole purpose of these guns, other than, I guess, again, recreationally, if you want to shoot it at a firing range, and there could be some sort of process where they're held at ranges and people want to go and shoot them, can shoot them. But what realistically, even in some type of self-defense scenario, could you possibly, I mean, I just don't understand the justification at all.
Yeah, once there's a shooting and their intention is to be a civilian that prevents the shooting.
That has been proven in any number of. Okay.
Can I just step in here for a second?
Sure, Kelly, go ahead.
I actually worked for a website that was about gun violence, and there has been one mass shooting in the United States where the shooter has been shot and stopped. I don't remember if he was killed by a civilian type of person that was just nearby, and he was a Marine, and there were.
It was me.
He was a Marine, and people died. And the other scenarios where someone intervened, usually they were killed.
Yeah, the notion, like, life is not a movie, okay? And there have been in addition. So, first of all, if you're out and God forbid something like that happens, I'm presuming because you believe in background checks, you're not like a crazy person that wants to wear your AK-47 on a belt around your body. So there's a mass shooting. You're going to turn around, go home, retrieve your weapon. Like, and they've also studied this with paintball guns. So you want to actually carry that with you on your body.
Yeah, I mean, like a certain assault weapon.
Yeah, you know what?
It never works, man.
You know what?
You never get to be the hero.
I just got to say, it's one of these debates where if you look at any study, you look at the evidence, Kelly just said there's literally one example of this working in real life. There's numerous examples of people dying getting involved in this type of situation. And there's also studies that I think people have done. I forget the specific study, but it was done with paintball guns and people sort of just examining some type of chaotic situation like this and how that actually plays out. Most people do not have the training. I mean, that's another thing. When you actually go and fire a gun, you realize that even the process of firing the thing correctly in a totally controlled environment is actually much more complicated than it would appear to be. So I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I'm happy to call back in and have another debate, but I just think the idea that you would legalize and keep available these unbelievably dangerous weapons when we have a national gun crisis, just on the offhand fantasy scenario that you could avert something that would be much less likely to happen in the first place if we didn't have these weapons out, I don't know what to tell you. That's totally illogical, man. But I got to jump. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for the call. I can't keep going because I have like another 50 calls and I haven't read any IMs yet. All right, let me take one more call. You're calling from a 917 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hey guys, this is Jake, the New York City teacher.
Hey Jake.
From time to time.
What's up, man?
How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I called in because you guys once in a while entertain my calls, and I'm like flabbergasted how few news outlets will cover education with all the stuff that's going on.
Right.
Including the test revolt, the parents refusing tests all over the country, and the presidential candidates, also aren't talking much about the education stuff, but there are really big things going on. And I'll just tell you one, because I know sometimes education stuff does get tedious, but if you have a kid in school, or if you're,
God
if you're
forbid.
in college,
God forbid. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this is really big. What just happened?
Gotta keep that whole
2 days
game
ago,
real tight. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
What just happened 2 days ago was that we heard that the conference committee, the back room conference committee, between the House and the Senate, will be reapproving the Education Act, known as the ESEA. That this is basically No Child Left Behind reauthorization, and they did get agreement to bring it into the public conference committee, so that before they say around Thanksgiving time, we will have a bill on Obama's desk that will reauthorize No Child Left Behind with a few changes.
Right.
The big thing is that they are going to require annual tests for every kid from 3rd grade to 8th grade. So if you have a kid in those grades, they're going to continue to be crying because they have to sit for hours and hours every year to take these tests, which don't give very, very good information to the teachers.
Right.
So that's going to be staying.
Right.
But they are going to be getting rid of Common Core. They're going to be making it state optional.
I'm
So
sure
the battle is going to.
I'm sure that we're going to have people on to talk about this. I mean, I know that President Obama has recently said some things that sort of has indicated maybe a slight shift in his position on mass testing. And I know that this is something that we'll be tracking closely. So what we'll do is, I'm not sure who we'll have on, but I'm sure Sam will have on someone soon to talk about this. And I really appreciate the call.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Okay.
man. Have a great one. All right.
Hey.
Okay, I'll get to your calls in a moment. We have like 4 lined up. I got to read a few IMs and get to a few stories. Ben Walton, Michael, the songs you played before interviews are always fire. Yeah, they are. Give me your top 3 reggae artists. Well, you know, I mean, there is always Bob Marley. You got to love Bob Marley. Naughty Dread is still one of my favorite albums. Chronix, who I play all the time. Chronix is a genius. Setting aside lyrics, I do like Buju. And who else? Garnet Silk. Garnet Silk. Awesome. And I would honorable mention to Protege. Okay, Jay Tingle. Raw Story tweets, Sam Harris, liberals who don't fight Islamism end up empowering Christian fascists. I know. I'm going to get to it, and I'm sorry, Sam, but I do have to get to this Sam Harris thing. I will get to it. Carl Ghost. I don't get the complaints about La Poupée when this I Could Sleep song gets played without a peep. Thumbs down. Bondicant. Holy crap. I found out that there's this absolutely wonderful website called Can I Vote? And all you have to do is put it in a state, and it will direct you straight to your state's website where you can find out if you're registered or not. Also, actually, I found out that I'm registered to vote, and I'm registered as an independent. That means I can't vote in Florida's primary. I'm going to be changing as soon as I can, of course, so I can vote for Bernie in the primary. All right, let's get to this next call. Then I'll get to a few more stories. You're calling from a 718 area code. Can you tell us your name and where you're calling from? Is this Kelly's dad?
Greg from New York.
Ay. Mr. Greg, how are you?
Hey, not Palestinians.
Okay.
I just wanted to call in following the Paris terror attacks and just sort of wonder
Maybe
why is
Paris
nobody
should
talking
become
about...
part of Kenya. I'm just kidding. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, no. I understand that civilians were killed in Paris.
Yes.
And they were also killed in Lebanon
Right.
by ISIS.
That's
and they were
right.
also killed in Iraq.
Yes.
So my
and
question
Turkey
is,
about a month ago.
You know, I'm on Facebook. Yeah. No, even not just a month ago. This is my point.
Mm-hmm.
We know all about the Opera Theater. We know all about the stadium. How much do people know about what happened in Lebanon?
Right.
How many presidents, how many countries around the world lit up in colors of the Lebanese flag?
Right.
My question is, on Facebook, we're able to change our profiles. I've seen many of my friends change to the French flag.
Right.
And I completely stand with everyone, every country that has been attacked by terrorists. And so my question is, how come so little is being said by Obama or anyone else about Lebanon? I mean, what did they do that was so bad that nobody stands with their civilians?
Well, I wouldn't blame Obama for that. I think Obama has definitely mentioned Lebanon. I think the bigger issue is, look, one thing is that most people, whether we like it or not, are still going to respond more directly and more intensely to something that they're personally touched by, right? So I could tell you as an example, I don't want to say anything at the time, but I won't even say specifically, but I had someone, a relative, someone who's very close to me who was in Paris at the time of the attacks. And that definitely makes it, just that personal connection. If I had someone in Lebanon, it would make it more direct. So I think obviously when people in the United States see Paris, they see themselves more easily than when they see something in Nairobi or Beirut or Baghdad. In terms of our moral ideals and where we want to go as a civilization, that's wrong. We need to have the same kind of response when we see it everywhere. I think with Facebook, the bigger question that I was also looking at was I don't know if there's a, more practical than the flag thing, which is great. If you want to do the flag thing, cool. But to the more practical thing on Facebook is the safety feature where people check in and they actually were letting people know, like, hey, I'm in Paris, but I'm okay. There wasn't the same feature for Beirut or or the West Bank or Tel Aviv or Baghdad, or for that matter, right? But very specifically Beirut, because Beirut is not, a war zone.
That's
So
a good
I think
point.
so I think that those are the issues you raise are absolutely right. And ultimately we're going to need to get to a point where both for ethical reasons we care about everybody in the same way, and also for practical reasons, because what we saw happen in Kenya a couple of months ago was very analogous to what happened here. In fact, I think in many ways another parallel to this event was what happened in the Oberoi Hotel and the Mumbai attacks, and those were, I think, back in 2009 or 2008. So I think you're absolutely right, and we do need to have this more global values and global ethics, and that doesn't contradict being horrified by what happened in Paris, but it's also being horrified by what happened in Beirut, by being horrified by any number of things. So I think you're absolutely right, and I appreciate the call.
Yeah.
Take care, man.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Look at that. Look at Greg and I just synchronized. Crazy. Garth, Alistair Crook is unavailable. Can you try this Alistair Cookie? Oh, okay, it's a Muppet image. Got it. Good stuff. Good humor, sir. Let's see. How does Sam? Oh, Jiz Gargelet. Does everybody know what the real handle that this guy is saying is? Can I get Ben Carson discussing the meaning of my name? Also, thanks to Sam for preemptively Franco-filing my name in solidarity with the victims of last week's horrible violence. Guzzle. Age. I think Ben Carson almost just started quoting Wiz Khalifa there. That would have been, I guess, a real extension of the Ben Carson F-Train character. AJS 93. So you're saying that Salafism and Wahhabism are puritanical movements founded well after the origins of the religion that are ultra-conservative and obsessed with cleansing of mass killing. Kind of reminds me of another modern fundamentalism, puritanism movement that I remember landed on some rock in Massachusetts and killed a bunch of Native Americans. It's not directly analogous, but definitely there are some parallels. But it's not directly analogous. Neff. Thought that came up during the first half re-Saudis in Saudi Arabia. Let's say Bernie manages to win the elections. No Jews are allowed into Saudi Arabia. What happens? No Jews are allowed into Saudi Arabia. Jews have definitely been to Saudi Arabia as part of official. I mean, what is true is that you cannot practice any other religion other than Islam in Saudi Arabia.
Which is not a problem for Bernie.
Yeah, it's not a problem for me. My religion is kindness, and don't ever look at my fucking face. You're calling from a 610 area code, 601 area code rather. Who are you? And where are you calling from?
Hi, guys. It's Nate from Texas. How you doing?
Hey, brother Nate. What's going on?
Not too much.
You're getting an applause in the.
Greg.
You're getting an applause in the office here. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say I agree with Greg. He makes a good point, and it's totally true that we have to. I'm worried about these kinds of things continuing to happen in France. It worries me a great deal that ISIS could do this and that they might attack again, but we also have to worry about other countries where this is just constantly happening every single day,
right?
And nobody's really paying attention to it. But, I wanted to point out that Afghanistan tried to give women the right to vote before America, but it was prevented by a coup d'etat, funded by Britain.
What year are you talking about?
And the Soviets,
What year are you talking about?
This was right after World War I believe.
Okay.
1919, 1921, in that area. I have to look it up, but I know that they would have been the first to give women the right to vote if it hadn't been for the coup d'etat. That they were too liberal, they were too anti-business, so the British got rid of that government. And under the Soviets, even they had schools for women. They had
Yep.
pretty decent country. But, of course, there's some people that aren't going to like that. And we chose the Taliban, not because they were conservative, but because they were crazies. And we wanted the craziest people we could get.
Well, the Taliban
fight
came
Soviets,
up later. The Taliban arose in the 90s. You had the Mujahideen first. The Mujahideen were multiple fighting units. So as an example, Masood, who was killed by bin Laden, by suicide bombers sent from bin Laden, I think it was the day after September 11th, actually. I want to double check that. It was either the day before or the day after September 11th. He was a Northern Alliance commander.
Right, but the people we did...
And he was more funded by the
people
French, as an example. I mean, but the ones that we mainly supported were deeply fanatical, and the part of the justification that like the Pakistanis had was just that these guys were the best fighters, and
right, and they're extreme authoritarians, and this extreme authoritarian trend in Salafism or Wahhabism is basically just, if you don't think like I think, I'm going to kill you.
Right.
And we associate that with Islam, but if you talk to a neo-Nazi, they're going to tell you the exact same thing.
Oh, I think that's a very good parallel. Yep,
I'm going to kill you.
Absolutely, definitely.
Or Anders Breivik. I mean, he killed those people because they didn't believe what he believed, and so this authoritarianism is very common throughout the world. And it does thrive when people feel threatened, or if a society feels threatened, they will tend to start moving over and supporting these authoritarians.
Yeah.
So,
I
just want to say that you have to stop threatening a country if you want them to stop being a-holes.
Appreciate the call, Nate. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks, brother.
All right, so let me get to this. Callers, please hang on. I will get to you. So Sam Harris responded to these attacks, and I actually think that a lot of my overall response to Sam Harris is really in the first half of the show, where I tried to distill the distinctions as best I can within Islam and Islamism specifically, the different geopolitical variables that are leading to this, and really drawing to some sharp distinctions between groups that we oppose and condemn versus groups we misunderstand and may still condemn even when we understand them. And then also just a group like ISIS that absolutely is, as Sam Harris would say, is psychopathic, is evil, is beyond the pale. No objection from me or most anybody else from describing ISIS that way. Now, Sam Harris put up on his podcast, and I listened to it. I listened to the whole thing. It was Sleepwalking Towards Armageddon, and essentially what he did was he reread an essay that I think he had published in 2014 after the ISIS beheading of the journalist James Foley. And basically Harris's point was like, look, nothing has changed. So I'm like a broken record on these issues, and I'm just going to repeat what I've said before. And look, the problem is threefold. First of all, Sam Harris is very into claiming that he is strawmanned regularly. And I don't doubt that sometimes some critiques of him are not fair to him fully. They don't allow for his full level of nuance and caginess. But I will say, he does a lot of strawmanning himself. Because his preemptive move on the left, or the regressive left, whatever that term is always to move the ball so far into this extreme, which is that basically anybody who wants to discuss this issue in a historical manner, in a political manner, in a manner that reflects U.S. foreign policy, is just a self-blaming, nihilistic moron who has no understanding of Islam, no understanding of the world, and essentially just wants to come up with a convoluted way of blaming ourselves, blaming the West for any atrocity that comes our way. And look, I can speak to what I say. I can speak to people to what people I respect say. And I don't know of a single person with any serious, real public platform that is making excuses for ISIS, that is supporting ISIS, that has any time for the type of barbarism, cruelty, and despicable, grotesque behavior that this group is predicated on. I don't know anybody. But what I do know is I know people like me who are trying to figure out this mess and untangle the distinctions and see where, okay, what's a group that you absolutely have to respond to? What's a group that's obscene, but you can't respond to because it doesn't make strategic sense? What's a group that you might fundamentally disagree with, have a very different worldview from, but in fact could absolutely strike a nuclear deal, as an example, as we did with Iran? What's a group that engages in atrocities but is representing the legitimate grievances of a population? What are the different historical ways that this religion manifests? Not to be nice and liberal and deny that Islam is blah, 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 but just because in terms of reality, Chinese Islam is different than Indonesian Islam, is different than Saudi Islam, is different than Pakistani Islam, is different than Indian Islam. And then also to make a whole other distinction between Islamic community in the United States, much more integrated, higher income than some of the problems that we see arising in Europe. There is no excuse or justification for the atrocity that you see in Beirut or Paris in any of that. It's called doing your homework. It's called having a historical understanding. There's no justification. There's no explanation. There's no West blaming. It's called being a mature adult looking for an integrated understanding. But his argument is really simple. It's that beliefs are important and that beliefs have consequences and that ISIS is acting out of a very legitimate interpretation of Islam and that us not calling it out is an existential threat to our future. Now, look, what I'll say is first of all, when he talks about this being the defining threat of our world, I have a hard time with that. In terms of long-term trends, something like climate change is fundamental. I don't know that you can elevate Al-Qaeda and ISIS to the threat of something that is generation-defining and existential. They're a threat. They're a problem. And from a humanitarian perspective, they need to be stopped. But I think that that's a very alarmist and exaggerated worldview that is not borne out by any security assessment or any kind of sober-minded way of looking at these groups. And then the other point is that I was listening to him, is that it sort of is, again, I know people get all freaked out, and I know that for his real fans, they're freaked out already because they can't deal with any criticism of him. But I don't get, like, this starts to sound, again, I won't use the neocon word, but this is a very intellectual and very soft-spoken and more sophisticated way of saying what a million Republican tweeters are saying. Which is that if you don't, you gotta call it radical Islam. You gotta call it that. Okay. What's the policy? Does he want a ground invasion of Syria? That would be disastrous. Does he want to redeploy troops in Iraq? What does he want? Does he want to back Assad? What are the actual policy outcomes here? And I'm not really clearly getting it. My sense is that he kind of vaguely supports what President Obama is doing in terms of actually bombing this group. I know people are very upset that Obama doesn't use the right words, but I'm sure that they're not thrilled with him bombing them. That might have a little bit of an impact on them, even more than calling it, quote unquote, radical Islam or any other nice PC speeches that Obama may deliver. But if the point is that fundamentally this is going to be won through a battle of ideas, I actually think that that's tremendously idealistic. And I think that ideas have a role, and being strong and forceful agents in any context for human rights, for women's rights, for development, for open culture and open politics, and always finding in those societies whoever we can align with. That's one of the reasons why, they're far from perfect, but one of the reasons I'm such a fanatical and strong supporter of the Kurds is that the Kurdish political forces, particularly in Syria, really have some genuine commitments to social justice and human rights. And they're fighting against ISIS to the death. And I mean, there's going to be very few examples in the world of a real, good and evil. There might be mediocre and evil. I mean, there's no scenario where ISIS obviously isn't tremendously evil, but there's an example where, okay, back the Kurds, back civil society in Pakistan. And then the corollary of that argument that Harris just continually will not seriously engage with is, yes, dropping drones on civilians, having an indiscriminate approach to terrorism, violating people's civil liberties, and killing innocent people is not the cause, and it doesn't make us deserving of these things, but it sets the context. And if you think that just randomly in France, all of a sudden a bunch of young people from Algeria and Morocco started reading the Quran and decided to join ISIS, and that had nothing to do with social exclusion and economics and psychological health, that is delusional. Why weren't their parents fighting in the same version? Why were their parents immigrating to France for a better life? And why is it that Muslim clerics are singing the national anthem in the public square? And I have to say, and this is the challenge that I have for people that buy all of these arguments, if what he's saying is really true, what actual realistic answer do you have besides mass indiscriminate violence? Because this notion of it will be waged with ideas. I mean, please, if these ideas are as potent and as dangerous and as standalone as they are, I don't think that there's going to be that much that can be done. I appreciated some of Sam's new work with Majid Nawaz. I think there's some value there. But you got to look at this in a fully integrated way and stop looking for one single master narrative to explain all of it. Period. All right, Reagan in the money. I still haven't heard from beta male Trump after one too many cups of decaf coffee, worrying about his poll numbers, but I don't know anymore. I thought my numbers were going to be huge, but Ben's beating me up so good, it's making my head spin. Beta male Trump, regards. All right, let me get to these calls. What'd you say?
Hello, Michael, can you hear me today?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Isha in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Hi, Isha. How are you?
I wanted to talk to you. Good. Basically, your analysis of ISIS in Saudi Arabia was spot on.
Thank you.
But you forgot to mention U.S. military intervention in Saudi Arabia and how the U.S. Army has kept the royal family in power, starting with the 1964 when King Saud squandered away the royal treasury and he was about to be ousted. And the U.S. negotiated King Faisal into power and negotiated exile for him in Greece.
Well, it's not, yeah, I couldn't get to quite everything, but I mean, obviously the United States has had a very close relationship with Saudi Arabia, no doubt.
And the second one was in, there's two more. Another main one was when there was a worker uprising where the workers were asking for rights in the late 70s, early 80s, and Ronald Reagan sent over the U.S. military themselves to quell the worker rebellion. And, of course, the Gulf War, where even Secretary James Baker mentioned that the Saudis paid for the war, and the U.S. ended up kind of overcharging them for the Gulf War. And so, what would happen hypothetically if we were to stop using our military to protect arguably the worst human rights offenders in the world?
Well, I mean, I don't think you can do it overnight, but I think that if we had a less dependent relationship with Saudi Arabia, and it would include and eventually go up to their domestic human rights record, but it would also, I think it would, in the beginning, it would start by really looking at and holding accountable Saudi funding for these international groups. I mean, certainly Saudi's not funding ISIS at this point, because they perceive it as a threat to them. But there has not been a single one of these outbreaks of fanatical doctrine Sunni Wahhabist groups that have materialized into global threats that have not had some Saudi hand in them. Now, I think at the same time, to be fair to Saudi Arabia, they have their own concerns about Iran and their security in the region, but ultimately there is going to need to be some type of, and a number of people said this, but obviously there needs to be a different relationship with oil and how we kind of fuel our economy, not just environmentally, but also because of the security and human rights issues that come along with having the types of relationships that we do with a place like Saudi Arabia. I got to jump because I have a bunch more calls to get to and I need to end somewhat on time today, but I really appreciate the call.
Okay, have a nice day.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, a few more IMs, a few more calls. Coladict. Well, it sucks not to get the content from the interview. Focus on how much you save on phone bills. I hear it's pretty expensive over in the States. A 40-minute call costs on average about €4 across the EU, and the only outgoing call pays. I don't think we pay with RTC. Cudlow loves Coca-Cola. I have seen the distancing reasonable friends have had from their own party. Shouldn't we really focus on destroying absolutely the myth of dynamic growth associated with high-end tax cuts? Cruz explained away 80% of the deficit in his tax plan would create dynamic factor. That's right. We need to create we need new economist blood. Krugman and Stiglitz have had their chance. How about you guys? How about guys our age have become adults in the Reagan age? I want my money back for today's show, please. Oh, screw you. Bend over. Free Gaza movement blames Israel for false flag attack on France. Well, that's insane. Special correspondent. When will people stop blaming the Jews for everything? Swedish foreign minister just blamed Israel for Paris attacks. All right, I have to look at that link. That doesn't sound right to me. Ebwanara calls from the 12th century, like I think the rules on guns would be like not, like have rules or whatever. Oh, I get it. You're making fun of our earlier caller. The kind Cro-Mag. In the Dem debates, Hillary seemed to imply Bernie's healthcare plan would be implemented state by state, leaving room. Oh, Bernie. Okay, right. Leaving room for red states to turn it down. Is that true? I'm confused. Thanks. Sorry, Bernie, not Bernice. No, it's not true. He's talking about a single-payer universal system. Sandinista. Michael, you sounded so professorial earlier. You should have done the whole thing as Obama. Might have undercut it a little bit, buddy. The argument that more access to guns in France would have prevented the Paris attacks discounts all of the needless gun deaths that would occur during the rest of the year, and of course it wouldn't have worked. And now a rep in Texas argues that Syrian refugees shouldn't be allowed because it's easier for them to get guns in here. Let's play one sound clip. Sam Harris, we just discussed him, made some really impassioned pleas to call ISIS what it is. I have ambivalent feelings about that. I mean, look, I feel like fundamentally if you say you're Muslim, you're Muslim. If you say you're anything, because especially with religion, that is a very self-defined thing. And you can find roots in the text for Rumi's poetry, and you can find roots in the text for ISIS, okay? I accept that. But one guy that is carrying the mantle for the ISIS is Muslim argument is a brilliant congressman from the state of Texas whose insight and nuance and subtlety with regards to Islam and foreign policy and really anything else that crosses his desk, agree or disagree, this guy is brilliant. Let's take a listen to what Louis Gohmert had to say, echoing the importance of calling something what it is on Fox and Friends this morning.
Simultaneous hits, and the president is still refusing to acknowledge that it is radical Islam. By the way, the president doesn't have any degree in Islamic studies. Al-Baghdadi, that's head of ISIS, has a BA, MA, and a PhD in Islamic studies from University of Baghdad. He's a world expert on Islam. He said ISIS is Islam. So choose which expert you believe, the politician in Washington or the PhD in Islamic studies that's head of.
First of all, Louis, that's a big assumption that I don't have a PhD in Islam. All right? You Ferengi-looking fuck. And secondly, let me be clear. I will call ISIS what it is when the time comes, and that's when I reveal that I'm an Iranian sleeper agent and America's a Shia state. So cool your heels. Don't get so worked up when you're on TV because you're going to get beheaded soon. It would be great if Obama just prank phone called these people. He's just like, hey, Louis, really I am Muslim. Louis, I have a PhD in Islam.
Yeah, he's Muslim when they feel like it, and then when they don't feel like it, he has no clue. And
Right,
they're
exactly.
experts.
I know, but
that
like
guy,
he's kind of praising Baghdadi. He's just like, I mean, I take him at his word. He's a Muslim expert. That fellow over there with ISIS.
Yeah, what's with all this?
I mean, if al-Baghdadi came over here, I mean, I'd have to give him some wilder or something. I mean, the man's a scholar.
It's like I don't know where this newfound respect he has for MAs and PhDs comes from. Either.
Right, exactly. I'll tell you what. If you got it, like example, PhD in atmospheric science, I don't want to hear a goddamn thing you have to say. But if you got it in Islam, I mean, look, I got to respect you on some level.
And Louis Gohmert is the Terror Baby guy, which he said that about 2010. So those are about Terror 5-year-olds.
Terror 5-year-olds, they're coming up. Hey, man, but look, he's calling it what it is. So give him respect. All right, let me try to run through these calls. We got so much here. You're calling from a 774 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Ryan, Massachusetts.
Didn't you call before, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, man. You got to call in another time. I got other calls to get to. But please call back in. Thanks. You're calling from a 336 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Michael. It's funny you were talking about prank calling because it was Obama.
Oh, hey.
Call you.
Oh, really?
Somebody told me you do a pretty good impersonation of me, and
I know someone said it's definitely better than.
Oh, that's great. That's absolutely. Now, Michael, I like you. You're a smart guy.
Right.
But I gotta know where's it like working for a Jew like Sam? I know he is ruthless.
Look, Sam would be ruthless if he had the energy to be ruthless. Let me be clear. Look, there's a point in the Jews' life cycle when they haven't gotten the proper cut that they feel they deserve of the international media, where they turn tired and resentful. And that's sort of it in a nutshell. He's got Kelly here. She's worshipful, so that works. He's got a reasonable amount of ass kissing, and occasionally one of his Hollywood friends will show up for him, and that gives him about a 20-minute pep. And I do stuff. I try to mess up a computer thing every now and again because that seems to give him joy. But mainly, it's a sad process, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, you're the king, man. You're the king. You have a good night, all right? I'll take care.
Who is this? Who is this really?
Oh, that's Leonard from North Carolina.
Oh, Leonard, that's the man right there. All right, man. It was great to hear from you. Hope you're doing well. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Indeed. Y'all take care.
All right, be well.
Pete.
Love that dude. All right. You're calling from a 501 area. That's really unprofessional, Kelly.
Wow.
I was just given the finger by Kelly.
Incorrect. False.
You didn't?
The lies that come out of your mouth, Michael.
So you really literally just extended your middle finger at me and you weren't aware of what you were doing?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Wow. All right. You're calling from a 501 area code. Who are you? Stop it, Kelly. That time I was lying. Okay. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
My name is Mark. I'm from Arkansas.
I'm sorry, man. Can you speak closer to your phone? I can't hear you.
Arkansas, Marvin.
Marvin from Arkansas. What do you got in your mind, man?
I actually wanted to give my 2 cents about Sam Harris.
You know, can you? I can't really hear you. I don't know what it is. It's just it sounds like you're very far away from your phone.
I'll try calling in later then.
No, you can't call in later. Can you try now? Because I want to take your call now, but I don't have much time. So speak.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. Why don't you just speak slowly and stay where you are and go ahead.
Okay, my name is Marvin
Okay.
from Arkansas. I wanted to give my 2 cents about Sam Harris.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I woke up this morning, I was reading that article, and I'm not a political science major, but, you know, I aspire to be, but I think Sam Harris uses quality analysis about his idea on Muslims or Islam. I think he focused too much on the whole rather than just some of its parts. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents about it.
All right.
I think it's also intellectually lazy that he just doesn't have any nuance either on that.
Yeah, I don't think there's a huge amount of nuance. I really appreciate the call. Call in again when we can get a better reception. Thanks so much for the call, man.
Please.
Take care.
No problem.
Bye. Sam, I can't read all of this, man. This is too long. It looks really interesting, though. The European Union is gravely concerned about France's escalation and aggression against the Islamic State. I don't know if that's true. Over the past 24 hours, France has launched massive airstrikes in densely populated capital of Raqqa. That is, that's the capital of ISIS's self-proclaimed caliphate. The French aggression follows a series of ISIS shooting and incidents. Yeah, you got to send the rest of this as an email. It's a little too long. Yaram. Great show, man. Glad you covered Wahhabism in such detail. Please don't forget the Sam Harris story. I'm curious. Black Beaten Blue. Michael, do you listen to dancehall or strictly reggae? I do listen to dancehall. That's why I talked about Buju. What? What's your problem, Kelly? Like, would you be like a 10th this unprofessional when Sam hosts sometime? It's incredible.
You're just creating conflict.
I'm just looking at your mouthing stuff at me while I answer a question about
You're just
dancehall.
creating things. Of course, I would act. I would act exactly the same when Sam was here, which would be completely professional. Sitting directly here.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
All right. Matt, thoughts?
Yeah, I think I am the gold standard for professionalism.
Well, you are from the Midwest.
I agree. I buy agree
that.
with that.
I buy that, yes.
Matt.
Definitely Matt is the most professional. Fight the good fight. Inform your callers not to just listen to the show for their cue to start listening on your phone and not leaving you guys hearing your own voices in the background due to delayed audio. You guys need to listen to your phone or you guys missed the call. Benghazi. Be at IM. Positive Vibrations on KEXP.org is a 3-hour weekly radio show in Seattle with great reggae. Last two shows are archived for free streaming. Thanks, man. Isabel Malasladra. Ugh, I know I mispronounced that. When Hillary said, I don't want to insert most far-right Republicans' governor's name in managing healthcare and my health insurance. No, that is not merely the same as her statement about not paying for Trump's college kids' education. It's the same way the right uses their reductionist arguments to obfuscate issues. This is what makes Hillary so unappealing to people who long for a bit of honesty in the political system. She has no qualms about rehashing the right strategies that do a great disservice to everyone, since they misinform instead of educate. J.V. Ritchie. You're on TV regularly, so as someone that's part of the Fourth Estate, why do network anchors... I'm on TV sometimes. This is more of a question for Sam. saying why do anchors let politicians blatantly say false things and just let them ride? For one example, governors saying that they're not letting refugees into their states. This is easily provable as illegal, but anchors just sit there and don't call it out. They're governors of states, not nation states. This is just one example. If ISIS represents radical Islam, then Timothy McVeigh represents radical Christianity. Is that true or false? Why? Timothy McVeigh is a better example of representing the militia movement and conspiracy theory culture. I don't really know if I'd identify him as a radical Christian. And I don't really, even these terms, I would say ISIS is a Wahhabist, Salafist movement and a violent terrorist organization and a totalitarian state. Those are specific descriptions. Let's start to be more accurate and fully descriptive. Fred at Conn College. The other day when I was walking, I was eagerly awaiting old Matt to jump up and talk pop culture, and then I remembered that he isn't here anymore. And I was sad. Glad to hear new Matt and Kelly are keeping things fresh. Disappointed my class schedule conflicts with the show. We talk about pop culture. Anyway, why does Sam Harris come up so much? Is he really that influential? I used to be more sympathetic to the so-called new atheist arguments a few years ago, but I didn't realize that he held so much clout outside of these groups. Yeah, he doesn't really. He probably gets more attention from us than he deserves. But in the online sphere, he has a big pull, I guess. And there's overlaps. I think partially why he comes up so much is there's people that are very drawn to this type of show that are also big fans of his, and they're trying to figure it out and reconcile it. And so I think that's partially why it comes up. And also, it's on the kind of Islam and Middle East beat. Hell yeah. Would you say that climate change can recreate ISIS in another country, maybe even in America or Europe? No. I'd assume it would be less than when loss of weather shelter and limited resources should drive everyday person to doing anything, including terrorism. I'm also think that no religion, no terrorists, but that's just me. Well, I don't think, but again, the broader conditions of instability in Syria were connected to climate change, but ISIS is not about environmental survival. It's about power and totalitarianism. That's just not an accurate way of thinking about ISIS. No religion, no terrorism. That's just historically, demonstrably not true. There's plenty of groups that have not been religious that have engaged in all sorts of atrocities. And I'm not saying religion isn't a problem, but it's definitely not as simple as that. E. Greg. To Nate, you have to stop threatening a country if you want peace. That's my advice to Hamas, which is ruling Gaza and pulling high in the West Bank. Saying to your peace partner that is annihilation is all you're prepared to accept is a bad negotiating tactic for your people. That's not what they've said. Let's see. We'll run through a few more of these. We've got a lot of these. Kelly, stop. The ill mechanism. Big up Greg this time. Assad is basically untouchable now. I really wish that Saturday's debate had more viewers. Bernie stance on healthcare is universally appealing, and Nate is my favorite caller. I didn't think Bernie did that great in that debate. And I thought, I was so frustrated by that debate because I think Bernie is still not doing what he needs to do. And I think Hillary will win a general election, but man, she is not going to do well in general. She just sets herself up. Hugo Ball. Hi, Michael and crew. Great show as usual. Loving Michael's laid-back, scholarly flow. Very old-school radio, like my grandma used to listen to. All right, buddy. Undercut yourself a little bit there. Classic Kelly compliments him like cranberry juice to gravy on a tasty stuffing. This is really bizarre. This is from Korea. Saudi has no diplomatic relations with Israel and as such does not recognize Israeli passports, mostly. There are occasional exceptions. There are Jews working in Saudi under the passports of many nationalities. The official position of the Saudi government is not to forbid Jews from Saudi Arabia. Right, that's right. Sandinista, the sexual tension between you two is palpable. You and Matt should control yourselves. That's funny. John Johnson. Hey, Michael, what do you think about presidential candidates who are very clearly in a race to increase the value of their brand stock and increase their book sales? For example, it's obvious to anyone that Mike Huckabee is not going to come close to winning the primary. Do you think that, I'm just sort of shorting this, does this type of pandering influence other candidates is basically what you're asking. I think it goes way beyond that. I think the pandering is what the base wants. That's why we haven't even gotten to this obscene refugee thing. And you see what Jeb Bush said only Christians should be allowed in the country. And that, again, is the quote-unquote moderate. So that pandering and that extremism is what the base wants. That goes far beyond any specific thing about someone trying to sell a book. Surly Badger. Michael, I think you and Sam Harris should duke it out verbally on Joe Rogan's podcast. I feel like Joe would be all about it. How do we make this happen? Tweet at all three of us and get a ton of people pushing it, and maybe it will happen. I would love to be on Joe Rogan's podcast. That's something I'm working on for another thing. A Square. Michael, great response to Harris' argument. It's so easy to use simplistic narratives to think through the Middle East and the extremism issue. Thank you so much. I love Sam Seder. Jesus Christ, dude. Is this you, Kelly?
No, that's me.
Oh, it's Matt. Ooh. I didn't think you were that brazen. Craven. So weird, Michael. Stupid. Could you turn her mic down, please? I'm only going to be doing an impression for the rest of the show.
Your impression of me is
Your
not
impression
good.
just sucks. Stupid. That look of contempt. Not the first time I've gotten that look. Okay. All right. I love Sam Seder. I love the show and I love you guys, but you have to stop interrupting callers. There's an obvious delay for all callers, and every time you interrupt them, it just leads to a long pause. You're right. Interrupt them. And I'm talking to you, Doug, and other libertarians when you won't shut up but stop breaking in. Yeah, that's a fair point. Bertelmecht. Brooks, but what if my historical conflict narrative for viewing the Middle East is historical materialism? I mean, just don't tell Malice Bernie not to apply a grand narrative. The reason the situation was because the bourgeoisie class denied the means of production to the Yazidi people. That is how you understand it from a materialist dialectic perspective. Ree McFay, it's worth noting that a great deal of the militia movement conspiracy crap is derived from strict conservative Mormon John Birch Society ideology. That's true. And it may not have been explicitly Christian, but the movement sure liked to use the cross as a political symbol. No doubt. Rudy 2 at IM. If we eradicate every religious ideology, there still will be extremism and war. What we call terrorism now is what we called asymmetric warfare when our CIA funded the Contras in Nicaragua. Religion is more often a mask for religious goals than motivation. Okay. Chem Champion. Someone that might be a good guest, though, she's probably getting a lot of media requests. Krista Freeland. I think we've tried. I mean, she's now actually a member of the Canadian government. Sam interviewed her about her book on oligarchs. She's Liberal Party MP in riding in Toronto. I think she's actually in the cabinet now. Seeing that she's now in the cabinet, hard to get, might become essentially impossible. I would listen back to the interview with Krista Freeland that Sam did on her book on, I forget the name of it, but it was really, really good. She's a very perceptive, and that's a good idea, but I think that is very hard right now. Buck rode the equivalent of the F train in Paris today, and Ben Carson's double told a mademoiselle to smile. Oh, you're going to walk away now, baby? What's the matter? Let me buy you something. Damn, girl. You looking good. Turn that around. Holla. Holla at you, boy.
Why is it the F train? Is the F train specifically? Do you think?
In
there's
my
more sexual
experience, I
harassment?
have seen the most like I mean, you see it everywhere in New York, but I've on the F train.
I can believe that.
I've seen the most like, whoa, yo. And I've also actually seen the most like charming, like not gross version of that too. I've just seen the most like straight up, like we're in a subway and I don't care. I'm coming at you on the F train.
I could believe that. Yeah, I think on the ACE, I've seen the most, oh my God, is this happening on a subway?
Right.
This is dangerous, or like a biohazard. A lot of biohazard.
That's what I'm on the AC&E. It's I see less harassment and more like, oh, like you even know. See, the
like
thing
this
is,
person should be in a hospital.
Right.
A lot. That's the ACE.
This person's
vibe.
trying to eat their shoe, and
yeah,
everybody's just like looking at them.
That's
and,
a vibe there.
You know, the thing was, when you first moved to New York, and it's like you don't get these certain cues. Like if you're walking into a subway car and every car is filled, and then you see one, you're like, oh, that's empty. Great, I'm going to jump into that one, and then you realize it's because there's someone who's sitting there who really robustly smells, or there's like a piece of like someone went to the bathroom in that car. I remember one time I was running into Penn Station at like one of the main entrances to Penn, and I was really late, and I saw to the right there was this long crowd, and it was stuffed together, and people were walking in, and then the other stairway was completely open. So I just automatically and stupidly, I was like, all right, whatever, I gotta get down here as quick as I can. So I started running down the open stairway, just the time to look down at the bottom of the stairs, and there's this dude just like, he's just masturbating, like at the bottom of that stairwell. And I remember I just was like,
I don't understand how this
that's
is a notable
right. And I
story.
turned around. Kelly, I guess Kelly sees this every day. I don't see that as much as you do, Kelly. I apologize. But on the F train, yes. F train is where I have seen like the most, like, that's where I've seen Ben at work.
Plus, F train is a bit euphemistic too.
Oh my gosh.
Matt's jokes. Sneaky. Lazy Dutch teacher. Multiple European politicians blame the Israeli-Palestinian conflict as inspiration for Paris. It's not. That's a stupid argument. There's undoubtedly tremendous injustice dealt to the Palestinians, and dealing with that issue is fundamental for many reasons. But that would have zero effect on what ISIS is doing. It may have some effect on some recruitment, but fundamentally where ISIS is coming from and what motivates them has nothing to do with that. And even in their own rhetoric, they barely mention it. Nick DC, garbled voice is a microphone overload. Callers are holding the phone too close and the microphone circuit clips. I tell my daughter to stop eating her phone. The best comparison to ISIS I've heard is Bloods and Crips and maybe MS-13 gangs. Maybe MS-13. I mean, Bloods and Crips are not, maybe some people are at that level of sociopathy, but I don't think so. Bullet Prague. 51 protesters were arrested last night in Minneapolis seeking justice for Jamar Clark, who was shot in the head by police while unarmed, handcuffed, and lying on the ground this past weekend. Yes, we need to talk more about that, undoubtedly. Bertel Mecht. New Matt just made his way to the Hall of Fame with there's a euphemistic joke. 100% emoji, fire emoji, fire emoji. What's the matter? Not gonna let me holler at you? Oh, damn, girl. Why you walking away like that? Christo. As requested, I have passed along a couple of times some info to the Gmail about the double-crossing Brooklyn events at the Brooklyn Museum today. Hope they've been received. They have. Thank you so much. I'm not sure myself what to expect, but there's a good intentioned effort. I intend to show up, though I may have to bring my 10-year-old along with me. I hope interested Brooklynites listeners come out. That's right. There's a protest today. I forget exactly at what time. It's in the email. I'll find it. I'll tweet it out later, and Majority.fm will tweet it out later. There's a meeting, real estate meeting at the Brooklyn Museum. Berkeley girl. Hello, Michael. Your F Train Carson brings me to tears. It makes me laugh so hard. I love you. I have PTSD from sexual assault, but still think it's funny. Keep it up, Michael. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm really glad that brings joy. Being in Michigan, I thought your references to the F train was a euphemism. No, it's not. It's actually a train. It's a train where shit goes down. No, it's actually not that bad. Bayer, street harasser Ben Carson is super creepy. I think regular Ben Carson is creepy as well. Wait. Burning Bush. Will the GOP debate stop refusing refugees make any impact on the national matchup poll numbers? To be honest with you, I don't think at a moment like this, I don't think it hurts any politician's poll numbers to take a disgusting and craven position on that, to be perfectly honest with you. Jay Schiavone, I take an exception to your characterization. It just so happens I met my wife while masturbating on a subway platform 26 years ago. I believe it. Karaoke Obama, can I get a Rand Paul impression? The Jews and the Jews, the black, whatever. I just don't want to do this anymore. It's going to be so relaxing. Just go back to my gated community. Not pretend black people are human beings. Wait a second. Was that the final I am of the day? Things have gotten mishmashed here. Let me see. Oh, and the final I am of the day. Wait, no. Sorry. I think I did read all the I ams. That's it. I didn't give the proper fanfare. I almost feel like migrating back. Would you like to compose a I am, either of you, before we wrap up? Matt, final thought of the day.
Oh God, it's been a wonderful show, and
hey, what happened?
Exactly.
Kelly, positive vibes. Final thought?
Camera's not working right now.
Oh, shucks. Okay, Nate at I am with the final I am of the day. Nate at I&M. Here it is. Final I am. Sam's back tomorrow. Oh, final I am of the day now says. Great job. Thank you. Those were the final I ams of the day. We'll be back tomorrow. Sam's back live. Thanks, everybody.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bar. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I guess somewhere the choice was made for the option where you